All right, so today we are doing factoring trinomials, meaning we have three terms, right? So to factor trinomials, we're gonna start off doing the x that y'all did on the 6th, okay? So what you're gonna do is this is your A times your C, and then this is your B, okay? So when you have a trinomial, it's A is in front of whatever x squared is, B is in front of whatever x is, and then C is the number without any x's, okay? So if we're looking here, the number in front of my x squared is a 1. The number in front of my x is a 5, and then the number by itself is just a 6, okay? So if I did 1 times 6, that gives me 6, and then my B is 5. So I need to know what would multiply to equal 5, and then what would multiply to give me 6, and then add to give me 5, okay? So there are two things that would multiply together to give me 6, 1 times 6 or 2 times 3, and the ones that add together to give me 5 would be 2 and 3, okay? This is just what you did last time. Now that's going to give us our answer. So since it's a positive 2, we're going to have x plus 2. It's a positive 3, so we would have x plus 3. Okay? And then what you do is you divide both of these by whatever your a value is. So our a is 1. And then whenever it's 1, it just stays as 2 divided by 1 is just 2. And 3 divided by 1 is just 3. So that is our answer. Okay, these are the two binomials that would multiply together to give me this trinomial. So if you needed to check your answer, you could draw your box and say x plus 2 times x plus 3 and check it. X times x is x squared. X times 2 is 2x. 3 and x gives us 3x. 3 times 2 is 6. These are our like terms. So we have x squared. 2x plus 3x gives us 5x plus 6. So we got the same thing, so we know this is correct. Okay, so next example, we want to factor it completely. So we have 2x squared minus x minus 10. Okay, so I'm going to draw my x. Still a times c, and then my b. So my a is equal to 2. B is equal to a negative 1. That negative stays with it. C is equal to a negative 10. Okay. So a times c means 2 times a negative 10, which gives us negative 20. And our b is negative 1. Okay. So we want to think about everything that will multiply to equal 20. Okay. So that is everything that'll multiply to be 20. We know it needs to be a negative 20, so one of them, only one, would have to be negative, okay? Because a negative times a positive is what would make a negative. If when they add together, it's going to stay a negative number, then your bigger number is the one that needs to be negative to keep it negative, right? So which ones of these add up to give us a negative 1? Would be a positive 4 minus 5. Okay, so that's what we're going to put as our answers. We have an x plus 4, and we have an x minus 5. And then we're going to go back and divide both of these numbers by 2. Okay, this is called slide and divide. Okay, so we're going to simplify if we can. So we have x plus 4 divided by 2. 4 divided by 2 gives us x plus 2. And then this can't simplify to give us, this can't simplify, and then if you divide it, it's not a whole number. So what we do is we're just going to slide it to the front. So we're going to say 2x minus 5 because we couldn't simplify this. This is called slide and divide. So if you can simplify, you simplify. If you cannot simplify, then you just slide that number to the front. Okay? And then if you wanted to check it once again, you could. Okay? x plus 2, 2x minus 5. So you get a 2x squared minus 5x plus 4x minus 10. 2x squared, we see the minus 10, and then negative 5x plus 4x is that negative 1x. Okay, so one thing you want to look out for when you're solving these is you need to first look and see if you have a GCF, okay? So first, look for a GCF, okay? Because if we have a GCF, we need to factor that out, okay? We want to do that from the beginning. So there are two ways you could do this, right? So one way is just to list out your numbers, okay? I don't care about the negatives right now, right? So I'd say I have 1 times 3. That's the only thing that'll multiply to give me 3, right? 1 times 6, or 2 times 3, 1 times 9, and 3 times 3. And I want to look for their GCF, the greatest common factor. So these are all the factors, right? I want one that they have in common, and not just one that they have in common, but the greatest one that they have in common, okay? So obviously they all have 1, okay? But we're looking for something greater than 1, if so. If it's just 1 is your GCF, that's fine, but you can't, if you divided everything by 1, nothing would change. So you can't factor out a 1, right? So obviously it's not 9, because 3 and 6 aren't divisible by 9. It's not 6, because 3 is not divisible by 6. But they all have a GCF of 3, okay? That is going to be our greatest common factor, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and divide everything by 3. We're going to factor that 3 out, okay? So if I did 3x squared divided by 3, you need to go over to the side, you can. 3 divided by 3 is 1, so you're left with 1x squared. 6x divided by 3. 6 divided by 3 gives you 2x. And then negative 9 divided by 3 gives you a negative 3. Okay, so we've factored out a 3. If I were to distribute this 3 back to everything, it would look like what we started with, right? So now we want to use this trinomial to factor, okay? So I'm going to draw my x box. Always a times c and then your b. So we're not looking at our 3 right now. Our a is 1, b is 2, and our c is negative 3. So a times c, 1 times negative 3 is a negative 3. And then our b is 2. The only thing that multiplies to give you 3 is 1 times 3, right? But how can we make them add up to equal a positive 2? And then multiply to be a negative 3. Well, 1 would have to be negative. If our answer is going to stay positive, then our smaller number is the one that's going to be negative. Our larger number needs to be positive to keep it positive. Okay, so we have x minus 1, x plus 3. We bring down our GCF out front. And then we're going to divide both terms by our a, not the 3 we factored out, just the ones that we got from here. But if you divide by 1, it doesn't change anything, so that just keeps our answer as 3 times x minus 1 times x plus 3. And that is your answer. Okay, another something that you could run into is this, what we're going to look at now, okay? So we're going to do everything just like normal, a times c and b. So my a is going to be 6, my b is going to be a negative 1, and c is negative 2. A times c, 6 times a negative 2 gives us a negative 12, and my b is negative 1. So things that multiply to give me 12 would be these. Since it multiplies to be a negative 12, 1 would have to be negative, right? To add up and stay negative means your larger number needs to be negative. And the ones that add up to be negative 1 would be a positive 3 and a negative 4, okay? So I'm going to write that out. I have x plus 3 and x minus 4. And then I've got to divide both terms by my a. Okay. Oh, and then let me backtrack a little bit. Starting from the beginning, we should have looked to see if we had a GCF. Okay. Since we have a term that's a 1, your GCF can only be 1. Okay, because the only thing 1 is divisible by is 1. Okay, so their GCF is just 1, so we don't change anything. We don't need a number out front like we did last example. Okay. So back to this. So we divided by our a value. 3 is not divisible by 6, but this fraction can simplify. Okay, what I mean is 3/6 simplifies to be 1/2 as a fraction. Okay, so we're going to rewrite this as x plus 1/2. And we'll get back to this one in 1 second. And then 4/6, or negative 4/6, simplifies to be a negative 2/3. Okay, so now that we've simplified our fractions, now we can slide it over. Okay, since 1/2, 2 can't divide into 1 and give us a whole number, we're going to say 2x plus 1. And then 3 slides in front to be a 3x minus 2. Okay, this is a situation you can see. It does not happen all the time, but you may see 1 or 2 throughout the next few days when we're doing factoring trinomials that have something like this. Okay, so that's the one thing you need to be careful about, is does that fraction simplify, even if it can't be divided into a whole number. Okay, and then let's do one more nice pretty one now that we've done all the ones, the different cases that you could see. Okay, all right, so last example for today. So we have a 3x squared minus 13x plus 12. Okay, so we're gonna do our x, a times c, and our b. So my a is 3, b is a negative 13, don't forget that negative, and c is 12. So 3 times 12 gives us 36. My b is negative 13. So let's think of everything that would multiply to give us 36. So we have 1 times 36, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, we have 4 times 9, and 6 times 6. Okay. Now, they've got to multiply to equal a positive number. Okay, that is correct. 3 and 12 are both positive, so we get a positive 36. But they need to add to be a negative, which means you have to have 2 negatives. A negative times a negative would multiply to be a positive and then add up to be a negative. So every number would need to be negative. And then which ones would add up to a negative 13? Well, it is negative 4 and negative 9, okay? So that means we have x minus 4 and x minus 9, okay? But we've got to divide by our a value. So we're going to divide by 3 and see if they simplify. Negative 4/3 cannot be simplified, so 3 is just going to go in front of x. Okay. Negative 9 divided by 3 can simplify, and negative 9 divided by 3 is a negative 3. And that's it.